This video is sponsored by Noragon, the commercial vehicle data experts. Visit Noragon.com to learn more.
Today we're talking about tire maintenance in the winter, and you know, this always makes me think of my favorite line from Game of Thrones. I never asked to be a king. That wasn't it. I fight for the North. That's not it either. It'll come to me later. Anyway, tires are the second biggest cost for fleets, and winter is a time that can be treacherous for tires that have been poorly maintained. It's important to avoid that situation where a tire with bad tread is slipping and sliding on snowy and icy roads, and that means both preparing your trucks in advance and knowing what to look for in the winter. Joining me on this episode of On the Road to talk about tire maintenance in the winter is Mike McGuiness from Double Coin Tires. We talked about the practices fleets should follow both in the winter and year-round to take care of their tires. Let's go to the interview. Winter is coming. That was the line. Okay, we can go to the interview now. All right, so today on the Road, we are here with Mike McGuiness from Double Coin Tires. Mike, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
All right, so we're going to talk truck tire maintenance today, and especially, we've got winter coming up. I know you and I are both in Ohio, so we know that very well. And so I wanted to start off by asking about some of the biggest issues that come up with truck tires in the winter.
Well, I guess you could call me Captain Obvious here, but snow and ice obviously is the first thing. Those are not natural driving conditions, and the tire, when it hits ice, and it cuts a little easier. Traction's an issue. So snow and ice, I don't think anybody likes to drive in that, whether you're a professional trucker or just, a regular person driving your car around town. So that's the biggest concern. Once you get that under control, which is very difficult with ice, I don't care how good your tires are, ice is very hard to drive on.
Right.
I think you have to start considering air pressure, which you always have to take concern about. But as winter starts, temperatures start dropping, every roughly 10 degrees of Fahrenheit that we drop on the thermometer, we lose 2-3 pounds of PSI. So you said we're in Ohio, we got a cold front coming through right now. Temperature is going to drop from the 70s to the 30s and 40s. You're looking at possibly 8 to 10 to 12 pounds of PSI dropping out. You're getting close to a flat tire condition. So you have to keep your eye on air pressure all the time. Air pressure is probably the leading cause of tire failures, because lower pressures raise the heat in the tire. Lower pressures, you get a little more deflection, and that's not good for it. So you just have to keep the pressure up, whether it's winter or not. Winter may be a little more serious because of the temperature drop and the way PSI will drop inside the tire. And then to get just a little bit away from tires, the safety hazards. If you don't have to make a hard deadline, stop. Wait it out. The states have good ground crews to clear it up. Every year we see these tremendous accidents, 20, 30, 40 cars, and in the middle there's always a semi. Very hard to control. Watch your speed, keep good distance, and just use common sense when driving one of those, 80,000 pound vehicles. It's very tough in the winter. So those are probably the three biggest issues that I see. Common sense, I said that at the end, that ties to everything right down the line.
Yeah, definitely. And that pressure part of it is very important, especially, we're here in Ohio, it's October, and you get a lot of temperature fluctuations, and that can really mess with that pressure.
Absolutely. So, and I know it's time consuming, but if you're going to be a professional driver and do the right thing, make your deadlines, don't do something lazy or not do something because you're lazy. Check those pressures. You can do it. It doesn't take all that much time. Make sure the pressures are up so you can make a good run.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of brings me into my next question, which is, when you're looking at, fleets and, from the fleet manager, fleet service manager perspective, when they're setting up kind of a maintenance program, as we head into winter, what kind of things related to tires should be on there?
Well, I think you have to look at your tread depth as in the tire business, we call September and October drive tire season. Everybody's looking for new drive tires for extra traction September, October, before the hard part of winter hits. So the first thing to do is, if you're down, if you're low, maybe take those drive tires, move them back to the trailer, get them recapped or whatever, but have good rubber on your drive tires for extra traction. You get a bit of traction in snow, you get very little, in ice. It's just very difficult to go. But deeper treads are going to give you a little better safety factors. Also, you could look at winter tires. Now, every fleet can't switch from, say, an all-season drive to a winter tire, but some guys can, especially if you're driving in the very northern part of the U.S. or even into Canada. So there are winter tires. Every company has a little different option, different tread patterns that give you maybe just a little more grip and keep you a little safer out there. Look at mismatched tires. If you change one tire and it's just a little bit shorter than the one, or a little bit taller than the one next to it, you're going to create other issues, because the taller tire is going to carry more of the weight. It's going to help or increase that tire's death rate, if you will. It's going to wear it down more, and the lower tire is going to spin more and wear funny. So try to get your tires as even as possible in height as you're going into winter. Now in Ohio, I don't see many guys with chains, but as you go into the far west, the northwest, we get the mountains, and the weather is so much more severe than we have here in the Mid-East or Midwest. Have chains ready, know how to put them on, because they'll help you dig out of some pretty tough conditions. I see a lot of trucks in this area, chains are attached to the side of the truck. They got them ready. Depends where they're going. You don't see too many people running down the highways here. For the most part, Ohio, because I live here, they keep the roads in pretty good shape, but just use common sense. Also, keep the air pressure. We mentioned that in the first segment, first question. Air pressure is critical. I don't care if it's summer, spring, fall, or winter. That air pressure has to be as best it can be to save the tires. And I say this to a lot of people, you're investing a lot of money in tires. If you got an 18-wheeler, you got between $6 and $10 in tires on that vehicle. Take a little time to help that capital investment last longer. You could go to retreads, but you should get a lot of life out of these tires if you take good care of them. So those are a couple of things,
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, tires are usually, for a fleet, that's probably a top 3 cost. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely important to keep that. A lot of what you were talking about there, it relates to knowing your route and knowing, beforehand what kind of tires the truck needs on it, whether it needs chains, really planning that out. And you can do that based on previous years and kind of know what you need.
Well, I'm not a professional truck driver, but I drive, over 30,000 miles a year as a salesman. As you said, know what's ahead of you. I always look at the weather. I will postpone a business trip if I know we're going to have pretty rough conditions. It's no fun. In a car, in a truck, it's no fun driving in those conditions. So know what you have to do ahead of time. And safety's the first thing. These guys are pushing a lot of weight. They're going at fairly high speeds. You just have to use common sense and know, I better not do this. I better pull off, wait 5 or 6 hours. The plows will come through and it'll be a little bit better. Right. So that's the whole thing. The driver really needs to take charge and be ahead of the game.
Right, definitely. And so you mentioned, some of these things need to be done kind of year round, and the pressure was one that you mentioned. A lot of preparing for winter season when it comes to tires or anything else about the truck is done, months ahead. So What are some of those things that fleets should be looking at, a few months ahead of the game?
Well, I think, we mentioned air pressure. I mean, you can't do it daily, but you need to do it weekly, every 2 weeks. Keep that pressure in mind. Mismatched tires, a lot of these guys are on the road for a long time. The drivers don't necessarily look at it. If they change one tire, I guess the rule of thumb, if you change one tire, change two or change four. Try to keep an axle pretty even. Alignments. You talk about alignments. That saves tires. This is not something especially important in the winter, but all year round. Kingpins and bearings and all that stuff. Keep an eye on that because that throws your alignment off. And you've seen trucks following them down the highway where the trailer's like 8 feet to the left, and you need to align the tires on axle and down the vehicle. That will save the tire life. And the guys that do that, they get much longer life out of the tires, 350, 400,000. And that's only because they take care of it. They love their truck. They know it makes them money. It's a capital investment. So if you do the right things from a maintenance standpoint, those tires are going to last longer. And as I mentioned before, $6,000 to $10,000 a set of tires for these semis. That's a lot of money to protect. So you really need to do the right things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the more trucks you have in the fleet, the more that becomes true because that really adds up over time.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think that's all I had to ask. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it.